Welcome to Ogle's channel. Today we're going to rank all the Demon's Souls Remake Archstones from easiest to hardest. Yes, the bosses are a tremendous challenge, but often the journey to the bosses can be just as difficult, if not more so. Each of the 5 Archstones has its own set of challenges, but some are clearly more difficult than others. For this ranking, we're going to be looking at the level design itself and won't be including the boss fights. That's a separate list with a link above right now. We also won't be using my personal choices, but rather a community-based ranking where I had everyone vote which levels they felt were the most difficult for them, thereby having more official results. But enough explanation, let's dive on into the list. The first Archstone you'll encounter after leaving the Nexus was also voted to be the easiest, the Archstone of the Small King. This Archstone takes you to the Voltarian Palace, where the majority of the enemies you're going to encounter are medieval soldiers, and despite having a few tougher knights to fight through and dragons to avoid, most players will make it to and destroy the bosses with little trouble. The level design is fairly straightforward, with no passages to get lost in, plenty of room to space your enemies, and very few to no level hazards. The only portion of the level that really tests your stamina is going to be the final passage to get to the Penetrator and the Old King Alant. However, at this point in the game, you are so used to spacing knights that the challenge is more time consuming than difficult. Overall, the Archstone of the Small King was very straightforward, had enemies that never felt overpowered, and left the vast majority of players saying that this was the easiest level in the game. The Archstone of the Burrow King is voted to be the second easiest in the game, and for most players is also the second Archstone that they play through, simply because it's closest in proximity to the first one, because we all know how much we love convenience. Where the first level had mostly medieval soldiers, this level is made up mostly of goblins who take an ungodly amount of strikes to kill when playing melee. And speaking of an ungodly amount of strikes, here come the firebugs to sit there and block the path. Lord, I hate the firebugs. The most cumbersome nuisance in the entire game. They just sit there, and when you finally do kill them for the first time, you have no idea they're going to explode, and there you go, dead again. But while most of these enemies seem to have huge energy bars, none of them are particularly difficult. The only thing that might really annoy players in this level is traveling to the Flame Lurker himself. You either take the tunnels, which all look nearly identical and can be a huge hassle when you're just wandering around aimlessly in them, or you take the rafters, and we all know what happens when you take the rafters. According to those that were surveyed, the path to Flame Lurker was actually the reason that this Archstone was not considered the easiest in the game. The Tower Queen Archstone came in 3rd place and was elevated above the earlier 2 due to the sheer fact that the enemies in this level took a major step up in difficulty. You had the prison itself, which seemed like a massive labyrinth with holes just waiting for you to fall into, a plague-wielding phantom guarding the first boss, narrow ledges in the second half where you're constantly fighting gargoyles and man-scorpion slugs, and let us not forget the Mind Flayers. Was there anything more obnoxious than being caught and paralyzed by these squid-faced creatures? Oh yeah, being one-shotted by the squid-faced creatures. The prison portion was definitely the more annoying of the 2 halves of this level, but getting lost in the prison and constantly being paralyzed, that right there is one of the main reasons that the voters ranked this is the 3rd hardest one in the game. Archstone of the Chieftain. I'll be honest, I was surprised that this was not ranked as the hardest in the game, because I absolutely hated this level. This truly is just an early version of Blighttown from the Dark Souls series, if not worse. You start off journeying through these precarious ladders and rafters, fighting goblins just waiting to take you tumbling off the edge with them. And just when you finally get through all of that, welcome to the Poison Swamp. This is the most obnoxious thing I can imagine in the game. You can't go fast, you can't dodge, you constantly lose health from being poisoned, and giant mutant goblins overpower you while all this is going on. Like seriously, how is a melee character ever supposed to get whatever that item is? I still don't know what the item is because I could never get it. This level is 100% easier with magic-based characters, but that sludge of the swamps, there is nothing worse. Except for the plague babies. That is worse. Definitely worse. And in first place is Archstone of the Shadowmen at being the most difficult. Over 50% of the players polled picked this Archstone as the hardest level in the game. From the unrelenting skeletons and the storm beast at the start of the level to the laser shooting giants and never-ending tunnels at the close. This is the pinnacle of how hard Dark Souls is going to get. At the start of the level, not only do you have the skeletons and the storm beast attacking you, but look who else decided to show back up. Our old buddy Vanguard is back. After defeating him, you think you're ready to do some looting in these corridors. Nah, they got traps hidden all throughout to make sure that that does not happen. At any point when you finally feel successful in this level, they feel the need to place you right on the edge of the cliff, fighting over the same skeletons while being bombarded by the storm beast yet again. However, these cliffs were not the most hated aspect of the level according to players. It was the long tunnel to get to the old hero. You had massive ghost giants either trying to grab you or shoot you with these nearly one-shot lasers. You could also try to make a run for it, but half the time they were so big that they blocked the entire path. The passage was filled with these creatures, and after a few failed runs, frustration would set in, which would lead to more failed runs, which leads to anger, which leads to more failed runs, which eventually leads to you rage quitting the game. This area right here was the most hated area in all of Demon Souls according to our polls. Make it through here though, and the game is all downhill. So there we have it, all the Archstones from easiest to hardest according to the current players of the game. Do you agree with their picks? Comment down below your personal thoughts on which levels you thought were the most difficult, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. By all means, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.